The Classical Style, by Charles Roson.
The popular style of Haydn. Franz Joseph Haydn's late style is a reflection of his enormous popular success in the late 18th century. His works from this period, including symphonies and oratorios, are influenced by folk music. The use of folk music in Haydn's works became increasingly important from 1785 onwards. This reflected the growth of national sentiment and the consciousness of particular national cultures. Haydn's use of folk music was not sentimental but rather reflected the Republican enthusiasm of the latter part of the 18th century. It was also related to the autonomous development of the musical language. Anecdotes such as the story of the professor doing field research on Haydn among the peasants add to the understanding of Haydn's relationship with folk music. Haydn's use of folk music was not limited to allusions to popular tunes but rather the creation of elements of folk style at will. The assimilation is the crux of the matter, and it is entirely in 18th century music. When Bach uses folk songs, as he does on rare occasions, either they lose their folk characteristics, or appear as quotations from a foreign language. Both processes can be seen in the Quodlibet from the Goldberg Variations and in the Peasant Cantata. In Haydn, however, the opening of the finale of the Symphony No. 104 is at once a folk song, and sounds it, and a perfectly normal Haydn rondo subject. Even its rusticity is not unusual. Baroque versus folk music. In Baroque music, chorale tunes are assimilable into the style but only because their rhythms had been flattened into a uniform movement. Even the inflections of speech have largely disappeared. This loss of original rhythms and inflections allowed the tunes to be received by the homogeneous rhythmic structures of the High Baroque. However, their popular character is almost entirely lost. Haydn, on the other hand, rarely accepts a melody without altering it. But the alteration often serves to reinforce the popular character, as seen in the slow movement of the drumroll Symphony No. 103. In the double variation set, both themes are based on folk melodies, and they resemble each other closely. This is how Haydn preserves the original rhythms and inflections of speech, keeping the folk character intact. The added F-sharp in the second theme unifies it with the minor melody, forming variations in Haydn's monothematic rondo. The trill and its downward close strengthen this connection. Haydn introduces the F-sharp to infuse a more pronounced folk-like quality, enhancing the theme's popular character. The rustic modal dissonance is Haydn's invention, representing the 18th century pastoral world, akin to pseudo-folklore in tales like Perrault's. How do Haydn use folk tunes? Whether Haydn invented or recalled folk tunes is inconsequential. Take, for instance, the melody in the drumroll symphony's slow movement, resembling various folk tunes, including one used by Bach in the Goldberg Variations. Haydn's ability to invent or find variants was equally effortless. While he collected folk tunes and engaged in street serenading in his youth, his thematic elaboration technique and symmetrical style were developed before integrating folk themes into his music. The collision between his style and folk tunes consistently saw the tunes adapting to his structure. In the drumroll symphony, both sided melodies undergo significant alterations, forming miniature sonata patterns with distinct developments and recapitulations. The delicate balance of popular and high art in music. Mozart and Haydn's late symphonies and some Schubert songs are examples of the rare success of blending sophisticated musical techniques with street song virtues. The fusion of popular and high art requires a delicate equilibrium, as seen in Verdi's style evolving alongside increasing popularity. But in Mahler's works, urban folk elements remain unassimilated, contributing to the tragic irony. The rising aspirations of the commercial class and their growing interest in music as a symbol of social distinction aligned with the social shift in the 18th century. The initial mass appeal of high art, socially bound to disappoint, faced conflicts among music as science, expression, and public spectacle. To understand the process that made the fusion of learned and popular elements possible, one must look within the language of music itself. It's a delicate balance that requires careful consideration. Haydn and Mozart's use of popular melodies. Haydn and Mozart employ marked popular melodies in specific sections of their symphonies and quartets, particularly in the finale's openings, trios of the minuets, and towards the close of the first movement expositions. Integrating a folk melody in the complex and dramatic first movement is challenging, with the risk of the melody existing for its own sake. As in Symphony No. 39, Mozart addresses this by introducing a restless motion and increasing harmonic intensity, while Haydn's complex ideas are initially more straightforward, with less emphasis on subtle interplay between resonance and significance. In symphonies Nos. 99 and 100, the themes near the end of the expositions are simpler than the openings, serving to ground the previously generated tension. The shared full measures of introductory accompaniment enhance the popular band atmosphere while firmly anchoring the music. Similar to virtuosity in a Mozart concerto, popular tunes in his symphonies serve a comparable purpose, notably evident at the end of the exposition in the Jupiter Symphony. Mozart employs these melodies, characterized by squareness and symmetry, in a manner akin to Haydn's examples. While these melodies are rare in piano concerto openings, brilliance in the solo part takes precedence. Essentially, the popular tune serves as a substitute for banal cadence formulas, providing the necessary filling in its place. In Haydn's brilliant D major quartet Op. 71 No. 2, the main theme is rich and complex contrapuntal elaboration of an octave leap, while the closing melody of the exposition has the popular squareness of the closing themes of the symphonies. And further examples of this contrast could be added with ease. It should be noted that when the opening theme has a markedly regular character, the closing theme is generally made even more decisively popular in style. The first theme of the quartet in G major Op. 76 No. 1 is, on the surface, as jolly and square as one could wish. But the end of the exposition outdoes it with ease. And the stable bass and introductory accompaniment figure appear here once more. The main theme of the drumroll symphony has a dance-like character. The influence of folk music on classical composers. The popular style of folk music is often associated with regularity and squareness of rhythm, which is why classical composers used it as a basis for their compositions. Composers like Schubert and Prokofiev used symmetrical forms and 4-measure lengths in their music, which conditioned listeners to expect them for over a century. Haydn's music also used the regularity of rhythm found in folk music, but it was used mainly for its stabilizing effect. In fact, Haydn's music often features a drone bass in the form of a symmetrical and regular rhythm, as seen in the finales of the symphonies No. 82 and 104 and the D major quartet Op. 76 No. 5.